welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into the really interesting world of the Kaipeng tribe, their laws, their culture.
Yeah, it's a fascinating area. We've looked at some concise guides on their traditions.
Right, and our mission really is to pull out the most surprising bits,
Yeah.
give you a clear picture of how they live, but, without it feeling like homework.
Exactly. Get the essence of it.
Okay, let's unpack this then. So, kicking things off, what really jumped out at me was the structure. The Kaipeng tribe isn't just, one big group, is it?
No, not at all. It's actually more complex. They're divided into 9 subclans.
9?
Yeah. 5 are considered big. They call them Nampui. And 4 are small, the Namplat.
Oh.
And what's really unique, I think, is their leadership system. It's called Asung.
Awesome.
Right. And
Okay.
it's not like, one chief for life. It actually rotates annually among the clans.
Annually. Wow, so that prevents any one clan getting too powerful.
Precisely. It's a really sophisticated way to distribute leadership and responsibility, ensures everyone gets a turn, keeps things fresh.
So who are the key players in this Asung system then?
Well, you've got the Rai. Think of them as the chief judge, handles the big legal stuff.
Right.
Then there's the Kamchikau, who's the deputy.
Okay.
You also have the Kalim. They handle the finances, like a treasurer.
Makes sense.
And interestingly, a dedicated Jaksung, that role is specifically for marriage affairs.
A marriage officer, that's specific.
Very. And then down at the village level, each village has its own head, the Shodari.
And they handle the local day-to-day things.
Exactly. The immediate issues within that community. It's quite an intricate but effective system of governance.
It really sounds that rotating leadership is, fascinating. So moving from structure, what about starting a family? How do they welcome new life?
It's very community-focused. During pregnancy, the mother might receive traditional prayers or Christian ones, sometimes a mix.
Reflecting their belief.
Yes. And deliveries aren't usually in hospitals. They're handled by experienced women from the village, the Navwanset.
Keeping it within the community.
Right. Then, after about 3 months, there's a big naming ritual. It's called ramming pick.
Ramming pick.
Yeah. And it's more than just picking a name. It's a whole feast. Relatives bring gifts, but also specific blessings. Damsit borpek.
Blessings for the child's well-being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really emphasizes that the child belongs to the whole community. It's a collective thing.
That sense of community comes through strongly. What about as kids get older? Any specific coming-of-age moments?
For girls, yes. There's a very specific puberty ceremony. At age 13, they have the Kaipeng Resikit. It involves tying a special shawl.
Signifying.
Entry into womanhood, basically, taking on new roles and responsibilities.
Okay. And for boys?
Well, that's the interesting contrast. The source material highlights that boys don't have a specific formal puberty ritual like that.
Really? No ceremony?
Not in the same way. It sort of suggests maybe boys' transition is seen as more gradual, perhaps integrated through daily life and work, while the girls' step is marked more formally by the community.
That does raise questions about, gender roles or expectations.
It certainly does. It's a noticeable difference.
Speaking of major life events then, marriage, that's central everywhere. How do the Kaipeng approach it?
They have a couple of main types. Arranged marriage is one.
Okay, traditional.
And also what they call love come arranged.
Love them arranged. So the couple chooses, but families are still involved.
Exactly. It blends personal choice with that crucial family and community approval. It needs to strengthen the social fabric, not just be about the couple.
Right. And financially, dowries.
Now this is key. No dowry system. In fact, it's socially banned.
Banned? That's quite progressive compared to some places.
It really is. There is a bride price, though.
Okay. How much?
It's specific. Rs 751 if both partners are Kaipeng.
And if one isn't?
Then it's higher Rs, 2051 for marrying an outsider.
Interesting distinction. And the wedding itself?
Oh, it's a big community affair, a real festival. Villagers all pitch in with preparations, special traditional clothes are worn.
Sounds vibrant.
Very. And the day after the wedding, there's another celebration called Dolani.
What happens then?
Lots of drama, singing, dancing, keeping the celebration going.
Nice. Any other unique customs?
Yes, there's something called samak. This is where the groom might actually live in the bride's house for a while.
Temporarily.
Yeah, for a set period. It can be seen as a time for him to, show his commitment, contribute to her family, build ties before they fully establish their own household.
That's a different dynamic.
Yeah.
So it emphasizes community and commitment. But what if things don't work out? Is divorce possible?
Yes, it is allowed, but importantly, you need valid reasons.
Such as?
Things like abuse, cheating, infertility are mentioned. It's not taken lightly.
And if a divorce happens?
Property is shared, custody of children is shared, and it needs approval from the village court, the shodari.
The village head again.
Right, they oversee it. And remarriage is allowed, but you need to follow certain rituals.
Any consequences for divorce without good reason?
Yes, fines can be imposed. It discourages separating without, proper justification.
Okay. So, thinking bigger picture, family structure, property, how does that work?
They tend towards a joint family system, often headed by the father or maybe the eldest son. Keeps the family unit strong.
And inheritance, does it all go to the sons?
No, and this is a really key point for you listening daughters. Get an equal share of property too.
Equal share, that's significant.
It is. And adopted children also get an equal share, provided the proper adoption customs were followed.
Tell me more about adoption. How does that work?
Well, if a couple is childless, they can adopt. They need the Shadari's approval, naturally.
Right.
The child has to take the Kaipeng surname, become part of the clan identity.
Integration.
Exactly. There's a simple ceremony, some documentation, and then that child has full rights, just like a biological child, including inheritance.
That focus on fairness, community approval, it seems like that would feed right into how they handle justice, too. Yeah. You mentioned the Shadari court.
Yes, their justice system is quite unique. It's very internal. Village-level disputes go to the Shadari court.
And more serious stuff.
That escalates to the Asung committee, the higher council.
Okay. But what's really striking is no police, no civil courts like we have.
None. It's all handled internally through their customary laws. And crucially, no jail.
No jail at all.
Yeah.
So how's punishment handled?
Instead of incarceration, they use customary fines. Or, perhaps even more powerfully, social rejection.
Social rejection. Like ostracism.
Pretty much. Being excluded from community life, events, support. In a close-knit society like the Kaipeng, that's a very serious consequence, often more effective perhaps than prison.
What sort of things are considered punishable crimes or offenses?
Well, things we'd recognize like theft, rape, adultery, but also things that disrupt social harmony like polygamy, spreading false rumors, elopement.
Elopement.
Yes, or premarital pregnancy, harassment. It covers quite a range, focused on maintaining community standards.
These trials, are they just informal chats?
No. They follow proper rules. There are verdicts, and even a process for appeals. It's structured, just different from an external legal system. It relies on community enforcement,
It really speaks to a strong internal system. What about their connection to the land? That's usually vital for tribal cultures.
Absolutely central. And their laws reflect that. A big one. Selling land to non-tribals is just not allowed.
Not allowed at all.
Nope. Keeps the land within the community. And even ancestral land. It's very rarely sold. Only maybe in a real emergency, and even then, only to another member of the tribe.
Protecting their heritage. What counts as property?
The usual things mostly. Land, obviously, cattle, tools, houses. But also Jum land is specifically mentioned.
Ah, yes, Jum, shifting cultivation. That sounds important.
It is. It's a core part of their agriculture. And how they manage it is fascinating.
How so?
The land for Jum farming isn't just grabbed. It's distributed equally by the village Shodari.
Equally, based on
family needs, what each family requires to sustain itself.
And if there are disputes over this land, does it go to the Shidori court?
Interestingly, no. The source says conflicts over juring land are typically solved by mutual agreement between the parties.
Mutual agreement, not a formal ruling.
Seems so. It points again to that deeply communal approach, prioritizing harmony and consensus over formal legal fights, at least for this resource.
That communal spirit seems to run through everything. One last area of the youth. What role do young people play?
A very active and organized one, actually. They have the YKA, the Young Kaipeng Association.
YKA? What do they do?
A lot. They're crucial. They help organize social events. They provide support during difficult times like funerals. They even help trace missing people.
Wow, really practical stuff.
Yeah, and importantly, they're actively involved in preserving their culture, passing on traditions, protecting their heritage. They're like the community's energetic backbone.
This whole deep dive, it really paints a picture of, well, a fascinating blend, doesn't it? Ancient traditions meeting these really unique community-first ways of handling governance, family, justice.
Absolutely. It's a very different model.
It definitely gives you, the listener, a shortcut to understanding a distinct way of life that's quite complex, but also has this internal logic.
It does. And looking at the Kaipeng, it really underscores how incredibly varied human societies can be. It makes you think, doesn't it?
Now so,
Well, it raises a pretty big question, I think. What can modern societies, perhaps overly reliant on formal laws and, well, incarceration, what can we learn from systems like the Kaipengs? Systems that really prioritize community agreement and social consequences over locking people up.
that is a powerful thought, using social bonds as the mechanism for order.
It certainly gives you something to mull over about different ways to achieve social harmony.
Indeed. A great point to end on. We hope this deep dive has given you plenty to think about, maybe sparking curiosity about other unique cultures and ways societies organize themselves. Until next time.